Hello everyone, I am Clara Bennett. I just turned 82 this year. And if you are expecting a sweet old lady sitting by the fireplace, knitting and telling fanciful fairy tales, then you are dead wrong. I am sitting here in my wooden house in Cape Cod, looking out at the windy beach and realizing that my life has been like the heist of the century, where the thief was the very stupid habits I used to worship. Don't laugh, because it's very likely that you are also getting your time pickpocketed every day without even realizing it. Damn it! The feeling of realizing that I wasted an entire decade just to please people I didn't even like is more bitter than this burnt cup of coffee. I spent most of my life being the perfect wife to Dr. Walter Bennett, a respectable man, but as dry as a medication instruction leaflet. We had years that everyone looked at with awe, but I felt more like a piece of high-end furniture displayed in the living room than a real human being. After Walter passed away when I was 72, I stood in the middle of our huge living room and asked myself, Clara, who exactly are you without your husband's shadow looming over you? That question haunted me through many sleepless nights, making me realize I had lost my identity in meaningless tea parties. The first thing I want you to throw straight into the trash is fake kindness, the thing people often call social etiquette to maintain toxic relationships. At 60, I used to have an endlessly long list of acquaintances whose birthdays, hobbies, and even their dogs' names I had to try to remember just to appear thoughtful. Good heavens! How much energy did I waste smiling at the nosy neighbor lady or my husband's former colleagues just to receive hollow greetings in return? I wish I had realized sooner that in this life, you only need about 5 people who truly understand you, and the rest is just trash that clutters your soul. Imagine a winter evening in 1995. I had to sit and endure 4 hours at a dinner party in a wealthy neighborhood just to listen to other wives brag about their new cars or trips to Paris. I sat there nodding like a broken wind-up doll, while my mind just wanted to scream that I was bored to death and wanted to go home and read my unfinished novel. Why are we so afraid of being considered rude that we are willing to sacrifice our own peace to please people who contribute absolutely nothing to our happiness? If you were given 10 more years of youth on the condition that you had to give up all your current assets, would you nod yes? I remember one time my daughter Sarah, who is always busy with projects in New York, asked me why I didn't travel around the world like I had dreamed of when I was young. I answered her in a voice full of responsibility that I still had to look after the house, participate in church activities, and prepare for our uncertain retirement days. That uncertainty was exactly the second biggest trap I fell into. The obsession with financial security to the point of forgetting how to spend money on myself. We saved every penny, fearing an impoverished future, only for me to sit now on a pile of money with legs too weak to climb the hills in Tuscany. Walter always said that we needed to save for emergencies, but he forgot that death is the biggest emergency and it doesn't need your bank balance. We missed a trip to Greece at age 65 just because I was worried that the stock market was fluctuating and we needed to keep cash on hand for protection. Now, looking at the numbers in the savings book, I only see the trips that were never taken, the dishes that were never tasted, and the laughter suffocated by meticulous calculation. Never let money become the shackles that bind your feet while you still have enough strength to explore this world. The third burden that I stupidly carried was trying to fix my children's lives with advice they never asked for. I used to be a helicopter mom, always hovering over my kids, ready to swoop down and solve any trouble I thought they were incapable of handling. I fought with my eldest son, James, for months on end just because he wanted to quit being a lawyer to become a carpenter, something I deemed crazy and a disgrace to the family. I used my experience as a weapon to impose upon his dreams. making the relationship between mother and son tense and cold. Have you ever asked yourself if you are living your own life or playing a role that society expects? It took me many years to understand that our children are independent individuals and they have the right to make mistakes, to stumble, and to live the way they want. When I stopped giving preacher advice and started listening with all my heart, I finally saw the wonderful person James had become, even though he wasn't the wealthy lawyer I had always hoped for. Silence is sometimes the best healing medicine for souls longing to be understood, instead of dry moral lectures. Another ridiculous thing is that I used to spend hours every day cleaning this house until it was squeaky clean, as if some jury was about to come inspect every speck of dust on the bookshelves. I missed brilliant sunsets on the beach just because I was busy scrubbing stains on the floor that no one even bothered to notice. The habit of keeping up appearances through the house's exterior robbed me of thousands of hours of genuine rest and relaxation. I asked myself why I valued a clean kitchen more than a peaceful mind, why I chose to be a slave to inanimate objects instead of being the master of my own time. At 82, I look at the cracks on my house's walls like the wrinkles on my face. They are proof of time, and I no longer want to hide them. I learned how to ignore unwashed dishes, to sit on the porch, drink a glass of wine, and watch the seagulls soaring over the sea. Life is too short for you to live in a museum of your own making, where everything is perfect but lacks the warmth of life. Let your house be a place to live, not a display for the rare guests who visit and then forget all about it immediately after. And hey, don't get me started on those damn health metrics that doctors always use to scare us every time we go to the clinic. I used to go crazy over slightly elevated cholesterol or mildly fluctuating blood pressure, only to live for months in anxiety and ascetic abstinence. I turned down juicy steaks or sweet creamy cakes just for fear that they would shorten my lifespan by a few days. But what the hell? What is the point of living a long life if you have to go through bland days like a piece of unsalted tofu without a single joy of tasting the flavors of life? I had a friend named Martha. She always adhered to the strictest diets and exercised like an Olympic athlete at age 70. What was the result? She died in a car accident while taking her morning exercise walk, with a perfect body but a stomach that was always craving deliciousness. Her story woke me up to the fact that we cannot control death, but we can completely control the quality of the days we are living. I'm not telling you to let yourself go, but don't let the numbers on a blood pressure monitor become a death sentence for your culinary joy. What is more terrifying, death approaching or realizing you have never truly lived? This question keeps boring deep into my soul whenever I see people in their 60s still busily chasing after goals they deem important. They work like crazy to have a luxurious retirement, but completely forget that health and enthusiasm are what's most needed to enjoy that retirement. I see middle-aged men struggling with million-dollar projects while their kids grow up without a father's presence, and I see women sacrificing their entire youth to take care of the family only to receive loneliness in old age in return. The truth is, we are often so busy preparing for life that we forget to live it right now, right in this very moment. I used to wake up with a long list of must-do tasks and end the day in exhaustion because I finished them. But absolutely none of those tasks were for personal joy. I wish I had spent more time learning to play the piano, painting colorful landscapes, or simply lying on the grass and watching the clouds float by. Time is an asset that you can never buy back, no matter how rich or powerful you are. I still clearly remember the summer I was 75. Walter had been gone for a few years, and I decided to join a local dance class for seniors. My kids fiercely objected, saying that at that age I should stay home and rest instead of prancing around in a crowd and potentially falling and breaking a bone at any moment. But damn it! For the first time in my life, I said no to them and stepped onto the dance floor with all my clumsiness but full of excitement. That was the moment I felt the blood in my body truly circulating. I was no longer the melancholy widow Bennett, but Clara, a woman dancing with destiny. It was right at that class that I met my old friend Arthur, a former sailor with stories about the sea that mesmerized me more than any Hollywood movie. We didn't fall in love in the sappy, romantic way of young people, but we connected through an understanding of the burdens we both had carried. Arthur taught me that sitting too much is the silent enemy of old age. It erodes our muscles and our mental clarity faster than any disease. Together we walked along the beach every morning, ignoring the chill of the sea breeze or the aching of old joints, because we knew that as long as we keep moving, we keep living. But life is never all roses. And the climax of my awakening truly happened on an evening last October, when I received a phone call from the family lawyer. He informed me that there was some trouble regarding Walter's will, and the investments we had thought were absolutely safe were at risk of being completely lost. At that moment, the whole world around me seemed to collapse. The fear of poverty and loneliness at age 80, one crashed over me like a tsunami. My children started arguing about who would have to take care of me, who would manage the remaining assets, and I stood there, witnessing the true face of the values I had painstakingly cultivated my whole life. The feeling of being treated like a debt, a burden to the very people I had sacrificed my whole life to care for, was so painful that words cannot describe it. I looked in the mirror and saw a haggard, trembling old woman who had lost her voice long ago in exchange for fake peace for the family. It was exactly at that moment, amidst the shouting of my kids and the coldness of legal documents, that I made what was probably the craziest but also the most wonderful decision of my life. I realized that if I didn't save myself, no one could do it for me, not even the people who carried my blood. I demanded that all of them shut up and get out of my house immediately, an act I had never dared to even think of before for fear of being labeled a bad mother. I told them I wouldn't share a single cent of the remaining assets with anyone until I closed my eyes for good, and I would use that money to live the way I had never gotten to live. My children looked at me as if I had completely lost my mind, but I felt more lucid than ever, as if a thick fog had just been lifted from my mind. That was when I started rewriting the script for the final years of my life, no longer playing a supporting role in someone else's movie. I sold most of the expensive items I didn't really need, donated the glamorous dresses to charity, and only kept what truly brought me joy. I started writing, recounting the naked truths of my life on a small blog I named Clara's Confessions. It was surprisingly unexpected that the sharing of an 82-year-old woman received empathy from thousands of young people who were struggling amidst the pressures of life. They said I had given them the courage to live true to themselves, and that made me feel more useful than at any time when I was the doctor's wife. My journey is still not over. And although I don't know how much time I have left in this world, I am certain of one thing. I will not waste another single moment. I want to send a message to you all, those who might be 40, 50, or even 70, that do not wait until it's too late to start letting go of unnecessary burdens. Live a little ruthlessly with the things that are robbing your energy so you can be gentler with your own soul. Don't let your life become a perfect financial report, but hollow in emotions and true experiences. You see, I have told you the first part of the story of my liberation, about the heists that I managed to stop before it was too late. But things weren't just as simple as selling things or kicking the kids out of the house. The price of freedom always comes with new challenges that I never expected. In the next part, I will tell you about my direct confrontation with loneliness. about how I faced the ghosts of the past and a secret that Walter had hidden for 40 years. Are you ready to hear about the harsh truth behind the name Freedom Code that I am brewing? After kicking the kids out of the house on that fateful night, I went down to the basement, where Henry used to spend hours making useless wooden things that he called a passion. Under the third floorboard, counting from the tool shelf, I found an old tin box filled with letters and money transfer receipts spanning the last 40 years. It turned out my dignified doctor husband had been secretly providing for a woman named Eleanor and their illegitimate child in Vermont without ever breathing a word of it to me. I sat flat on the cold dirt floor, staring at the massive numbers that had been withdrawn from our family account to fund another life, while I had to pinch every penny to secure our future. Do you understand the feeling of finding yourself like a donkey being led by the nose for almost half a century? It was so humiliating and bitter that I just wanted to burn this damn house down and be done with it. When I brought this up to confront James and Sarah, instead of sympathizing with their mother, those brats turned around and worried about their inheritance being depleted, and even hired a lawyer to try and prove I was no longer sound-minded enough to manage the assets. They wanted to put me in the Grey Gables nursing home, a luxury prison for forgotten old people, so they could freely divide what was left. But they were dead wrong to think that this Clara Bennett would surrender so easily. I looked straight at that youthful lawyer and declared that if they didn't withdraw that crazy plan, I would expose Henry's entire secret to the press and the medical board, turning the family honor they so worshipped into a pile of garbage. Seeing the pale faces of the kids as they realized their mother was no longer a compliant old woman, I felt a strange satisfaction, a kind of freedom I had never tasted for decades. Eventually, I sold that house full of lies, gave each of them a small sum of money, and moved to a small apartment overlooking the sea in Provincetown. I spent my remaining days walking with Arthur, reading the books I was once forbidden to read, and truly listening to my own voice instead of Henry's or the kids'. The biggest lesson I want to send to you is, never build your life on the foundation of unconditional sacrifice for others, because when that foundation collapses, you will be left with nothing but fragments of yourself. Live for yourself before it's too late, because in the end, you are the only one walking with yourself to the end of the road. What would you do if you found out the person you loved most had deceived you your entire life? Would you have enough courage to abandon everything you once knew to go find yourself again at age 82? If you were my child, would you choose to protect your father's honor or stand on the side of your mother's truth? Leave a comment sharing your thoughts below, hit like on this post, and subscribe to support Clara.